Okay, the board is in session at 7:02 PM. To report out on closed topic sessions, the board met in closed session regarding conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Oh, sorry.
We need to do roll call.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Lots of things.
For the roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You wanted to do it, go ahead.
Trustee Bernal.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Trustee Levin.
Here.
Trustee Gould.
Here.
And Trustee Chiapari.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. The board met in closed session. Oh, God. Sorry.
Gotta write that a little bigger for me.
Jesse, do you want to do the flag?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. There we go. Now we're going. The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. The recorder is located in the front of the board's drive. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacifica Community Television records and broadcasts meetings. To report out on closed session topics, the board met in closed session regarding conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, government code section 54956.9B, one matter. No action was taken.
We did not meet that level.
Yeah, so do I still report
Just
that out?
say we did not meet.
And we did not meet regarding public employee discipline, dismissal, release, or complaint. Approval of the minutes of March 27th, 2019, regular board meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
And approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda.
I would recommend, we did receive Trustee Gould's resignation. She sent it to Nancy McGee yesterday, and because this is a timely action, I would suggest that we discuss whether we would do an election or an appointment and maybe some details around that. And I would suggest that we put that at the end of district business, which would go at 11E. I think it's timely because we don't have another meeting for 3 weeks and we have 60 days at this point to fill that position. So we would need to have a vote to add that to the agenda, and then we'd have a second vote to approve the agenda.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the resignation and replacement of board member Andrea?
So we don't approve her resignation, what we do is discuss the replacement process. Right.
So discuss the replacement for 11E to add it. Do you have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll
That's because I moved it.
You are moving.
Ah.
All those in favor?
The board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Then do you want approval?
And then we do
And
this.
the-
And so it's recommended that the board approve the agenda for April 24th as amended.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
And then, communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. Alicia?
Pardon me, I just want to clarify, do we need to approve the consent agenda, or did we do both with that motion?
That one motion, we did it with,
I don't know that we used the words approval of the agenda and consent
Okay, that's what I
agenda.
wanted to clarify, did we?
We could actually take the moment to make a motion to approve. Typically, you do them together, but I don't think we use the words consent agenda. So we could go back to the telecast, or we could just double do it.
Let's just double do it to be safe.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
All right, there we go.
Okay, so we're back to communications. LSEA? CSEA?
Nothing.
People wishing to address the board.
Susan Stollard, AAUW member, would address the board. And so you just go back to that little podium there, and so that the TV camera can see.
I haven't addressed the board in years. My name is Susan Stallard. I'm speaking to the trustees and to Superintendent Olson tonight. I've lived in Pacifica for more than 40 years. All my 3 kids went to school, and well, they were Laguna Salado schools then. So I was a parent for 14 years of students in this district. So I wanted to, and I should mention I live in Valamar. I walk tonight, so I'm just down a couple blocks away. What I wanted to, why I'm here tonight is I wanted to talk a little bit about the late, great Helen James. Okay. Helen James moved to what's now Pacifica before Pacifica Incorporated. Okay. And immediately put her kids into school. And because there wasn't a city at the time, there wasn't a city council, the school PTAs tended to do the business that otherwise might have been done by a city council. So a lot of discussions got done there. And when they found out that she had a degree from Berkeley, they go, oh, we need teachers. So she became a substitute teacher in 1956, which is still pre-incorporation. She worked on bond measures that got the high schools to be built here in Pacifica. She was a co-founder of AAUW, American Association of University Women. She joined MISPA, which is the oldest community service organization on the coast side. It also predates incorporation. So she did a lot of stuff in this community. She started teaching for this district as a substitute teacher in 1956, again before incorporation. She became a full-time teacher in 1960. She taught 2nd grade at Pedro Valley School. She was a special ed teacher. She was a reading specialist. And then when she was going to retire around the early 80s, she got involved with Pacifica Community Television. In 1985, the San Mateo County School Boards Association awarded her a Kent Award for her series Education Spotlight. In 1989, she became a clipper for the Historical Society and for the school district, clipping articles from the local media about events that were going on, both for Pacifica and for this school district. In 1999, San Mateo County Volunteer Center gave her an award for her TV work and her historical events. She used to record these meetings. I remember her carrying these big old cameras and everything, and working hours. So that was something that she did for years. In 2000, the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce gave her the Fuchsia Lifetime Achievement. In 2002, Michelle Garside, who was the superintendent here, sent Helen's story to the National Women's History Remembering Project. In 2012, she got from Pacificans Care the People Who Care Award. So she's done a lot for Pacifica and in particular for this school district. So Helen had 95 wonderful years. There will be a memorial service for her on Sunday, May the 5th at 5 p.m. at the Pacifica Coastside Museum that most of us know as the Little Brown Church. Should be easy to remember. It's the 5th month, the 5th day, the 5th hour afternoon. So anybody that remembers Helen or has an interest in the history of this district, here's your chance to hear about it. I got a note from her son, Peter, who said, bring your favorite stories of Helen. We don't want anyone who wants to miss it. Please tell the many friends of Mom to come.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing that with us. Correspondence?
I actually have a pile of correspondence. One of them was going to be my AAU newsletter with Helen James on the cover of that. But the other piece, as we get ready for a facilities master plan and talk about using technology, is that she was a trendsetter in terms of technology for her time, in terms of using the television. But also I have not met her, but I came to know her through the Pacifica School District History Preservation Group, which comes, I think, every Tuesday and scans old documents and old newsletters about the school district. So thank you very much for sharing this, Susan. I received a letter from Mike Perez of the City of Pacifica regarding the Ohlone Portola Trail, and so they want to make sure that everyone in Pacifica knows all about that, so I shared that information. CSBA is looking for candidates for the Golden Bell, which they give out every year. I'm sure you all received this. I'd like to brag a little bit about Sunset Ridge, which just recently received the Kent Award. And their Kent Award is for their science program, which is a 2nd through 5th grade science specialist program. But I believe one of the reasons why it's both a replicable and important program is that it's not just kids going to a science lab, but it's also that connection with the classroom teacher, so that the science kids are getting in class is very much like and consistent with what they get in the science lab. So we're very proud of them, and that will be awarded on the 10th of May. So congratulations to Sunset Ridge. And then also you, trustees, you will each receive an invitation, if you haven't already, to the Pacifica Arts Now event that is on Thursday. I think it's on, that would be right here, wouldn't it?
Right.
It's on Thursday, May 9th, from 8 to 10, and that will be at the Sanchez Arts Center. And so you'll get an invitation if you can come, great. Love to have you there. And that really is a celebration of the great arts that we're doing in Pacifica, but also it's an advocacy group for arts and arts education in California. And then one last one, which is a thank you that came to Maria Gavidia regarding the Valentines for Vets project. And I believe that the Valentines for Vets project was done by the LMC preschool. And so it's always nice to be recognized, and I'd like them to get props for that. So that's a lot of correspondence in 1 month.
Yeah.
I also have a correspondence. I received an email from a Pacifica School District teacher and former board member, Joan Wiedemann, and this was received on April 23rd, and she would like to talk to me about equity for all students. And so I'll be responding to her and setting up a meeting sometime during May, I'm going to say. That's it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? And then board superintendent communications. Who would like to start?
I can if you like. So I went to the Sunset Ridge Pancake Breakfast, which looked like a big success that they have up there, and is a fun time, and a great auction and everything. That was about 2 weeks ago. Workforce Housing, the first committee meeting of the new committee. Work study board meeting, and Sunset and Valamar open houses. We also had the Terranova Band fundraiser, which was a speakeasy theme, and so that was a lot of fun to see the band kids that had come up through Pacifica School District. They're now in the high school band. And then I went to a panel that Jackie Spears put together that had Nancy McGee and a couple of the Parkland shooting students, survivors there, to talk about gun violence in the schools and things we could do about that, or how to respond. And Nancy had quite a bit about her history of putting together like the big five that we use here. So it was really informative Saturday. So. That's about it.
I also attended, of course, the work study and the housing committee meeting. Being the first expanded housing official committee meeting, I do appreciate the increased information and viewpoints that we're gathering from everyone affected and all the different groups who hopefully someday will be utilizing it. Facilities master plan workshop. Again, I think, well, later we'll have the presentation, and again, very excited to see this moving forward. And then I just did a site visit yesterday to Ocean Shore, and just had a nice visit with the principal there, talking about her first year there and how it's going. Sounds like she's gotten a lot of support, and we walked her fields. And I think, with all the rain, the fields are looking better, but still very concerned about the condition. And just wondering if maybe sometime we can have some correspondence or some information on what the plan is for addressing some of these other fields. And, I know it's hard, being that we don't have the ability to really have very nice fields with lots of watering and all that, but I do find it a little concerning with the giant gopher holes, and just concerned about sort of the safety of our students. Now, according to Ms. Tarango, she did say that they don't have the fields open for recess time, and that's actually more because of visibility of how the playground is laid out. They do just utilize it more for PE and things, but I would just maybe like to hear from our maintenance people sort of what they're looking at to make our fields a little safer for our kids. That's it.
So we were at the joint articulation meeting yesterday, and that was where we meet with City of Pacifica. So we had Kevin Woodhouse is the city manager, and Mary Beer, newly elected to council, come to that meeting and talk about what's going on with the city. And then Jefferson Union had a couple of board members and the superintendent there, and the North Coast County Water District is always there too. That's very informative. And then our members from PSD were there, and Water District says we're looking at another price hike in June, and they're replacing a big tank over in Lindemar. Is that where Christian Hill is? And that they're looking for a general manager. And Jefferson is breaking ground on their workforce housing this summer, so that's great news for teachers in this area. Although it's not for our teachers yet, but for the Jefferson Union teachers and staff, that's great news for them. They're changing what they're doing a little bit. They were able to add a few more units by switching around the kind of parking lot they were going to do for everybody. And so I guess so they're building a lot of units, and I think it's up to 122 now.
Wow.
And so that'll be exciting to see. I guess we're a couple of years down the line, to get that to see those and to get them rented out. The City of Pacifica also talked about the Ohlone Portola 250th anniversary celebration for next spring, that we should be making sure that the schools are part of that. And that there's some kind of the flex buses from Samtrans are getting replaced with on-demand, which is kind of an in-between, like a Lyft or an Uber and that flex bus that they've had. So you call and you schedule the van to come out, an on-demand van to come out, and they will ride share, so they won't just, it's not like a Lyft or an Uber where they'll just pick you up individually, but they'll put a few people in at the same time and take you around. And right now, we're the only place being piloted down in Lindemar. They're doing it. So, transportation may be opening up for Pacifica from Samtrans, so that will be good to see. And I found out yesterday that Pacifica is in a shelter crisis, is what the city says. So they're looking at task force for homeless and vehicle housed people, and updating the ADU, additional dwelling units, that they're updating the city ordinances to match the state regulations. We apparently have a good approval rate on that, so if you want to build a tiny house in your backyard, the approval rate is pretty high to get those done. So, then they did a wonderful Home for All meeting, I think a couple of weekends ago. Yes, 2 weekends ago. So City of Pacifica is thinking about the housing crisis here, as we all are, in different ways. That's it, that was a lot.
That's a lot. You're trying to get it all in before you retire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I thought it was real interesting. with the
60 days,
Samtrans
people,
stuff.
60 days.
Good. So I don't have quite as much. Of course, I went to the facilities master plan meeting, and I went to the Sunset Ridge open house, and it was really, really fun. And I love just, I worked my way up from the kindergarten classrooms up until the classroom I saw you there. So that was good. I think I was most impressed by the historic write-ups of different figures in history. So those were really good. And then I've been up to Sacramento a couple times. I presented to the policy analysis for California education, which is a research cooperative, I guess you might call it, between Stanford, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, and now USC as well. So I presented my work on educational adequacy and how much it would cost to bring all students up to educational adequacy in California. That was interesting. The other thing that I've done is I went to a meeting for the technical design group at California Department of Education, and we were talking about the accountability system and doing things like looking at the cut points in the accountability system and making sure they're in the right place, and trying not to change things in the dashboard anymore, because I think everybody has had about enough changes and they're ready for the goalposts to stay in the same place for a while. And then the other thing is I have had some correspondence with there are some parents and staff from Redwood City who are very, very interested in trying to get a geographic cost adjustment to institute in our funding formula. So the LCFF, in its original incarnation, was supposed to have geographic cost adjustments to recognize that here near Silicon Valley, we have amongst the highest costs in the state, and therefore the funding formula should recognize that and give us some sort of bump adjustment. So I'm going to be talking to them a little bit about that, because I support it as well, but it has to be done right. So you have to think about it in a whole, because there are also very low cost areas that if you instituted this, these tend to be the more rural areas, they would get a huge hit. But they have other cost pressures for being rural, and you should compensate them for that. So you can't just, it's sort of one of these things where you fix that over here, and then all of a sudden something else pops up. So anyway, I'm going to be talking to them a little bit, and I'm happy to talk to anybody in our district about that stuff as well, because it's some of the research that I do. So that's about it for me.
Well, I did some of those things, and Andrea, I also went to the our joint articulation meeting, and she did really well. I'm not going to go there.
I need to finish.
But the one thing I did want to make a point on was that Jefferson Union High School District is going to be hiring a mental health coordinator. And so this person would not be the person that you go to talk to per se, but just to help out the other mental health staff there. She was talking also about how they're looking to have an intervention program for some of their kids who are maybe struggling with drugs instead of suspension, which I thought was, I love that concept. Then just the city is going to be adopting their new goals. Andrea, can you correct me? Something hasn't been done since 1980.
That was it, I think the goal setting.
Oh, really?
It was something like that, yeah.
So that's long overdue. But I think she hit everything else. The other thing was that the city's going to look in, the tragic drowning of the young man. So looking at the signage that we have along the beaches and maybe changing those. So that was joint articulation. And then I also went to the work study for facilities master plan. And I just want to thank the members who are on the committees because I really depend on them to get the information. So thank you if anybody's here from that. And then the really fun thing that I enjoyed doing was the read aloud day at Sunset Ridge. I got to read to the kindergartens, and somebody didn't show up, so I got the first and the second graders as well. And I just also want to make a little point that I just read an article that children who are read 5 books a day have an average of 1 million words more once they hit kindergarten. So that's just motivating me to maybe read 2 books to my kindergarten class instead of 1, because that's just astounding. That's it.
An awful lot of librarians in the office, or in the audience. I'm wondering if there's pandering going on to that. You've taken most of the good stuff, but I just want to brag a little bit about some professional development we did with principals prior to the break. So with our principals and our specialists, we gathered together as a group and we went to go visit 4 classrooms at Sunset Ridge, and they were doing either reader's workshop or writer's workshop, and it was really impressive. So it's professional development for our team in terms of going in and observing classes and looking at high quality instruction. And it's really impressive to see the work that they've done at Sunset Ridge and how what stamina the 4th and 5th graders had in terms of the hard work that they were doing. And that doesn't happen because they've got a great 4th and 5th grade teacher. It happens because they've been doing that since kindergarten. And so that was great professional development for us, and we plan to have 4 more sessions next year as well at a different school.
All right. So presentations, we're running a little behind, but that's okay. Pacifica Education Foundation?
Perfect. Yep, absolutely. So in the past, I think there's been a different format of doing the PEC presentation, but we would like to introduce Christy Novak is going to present, and with us is Emily Hennessy, who is the co-president of the PEC Foundation. And they're doing some super exciting work. So if you would head back to the podium.
Forgive me if I cough.
Okay.
I will try, just so you know. Everyone step back now. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity for us to share out on Pacific Education Foundation and what they have been working on for the past year. I'm Christy Novak. I'm the Access Equity Innovation Specialist for the school district, and I'm also the Pacifica Education Foundation liaison between the district and the foundation. And so we communicate and talk about making sure that what the district's visions and goals are at any current time are in alignment with what Pacifica Education Foundation can also help to support, because they have been extremely valuable over the years. And this is?
Oh, I'm Emily Hennessy, and I'm co-president of Pacifica Education Foundation. My colleague, Alden Miller, couldn't be here, so she sends her regrets, but she's also the co-president.
So we're just going to talk a little bit about the goals, and you could just kind of click all of them if you want. Glad I wore my glasses. So, so could you read the?
Sure. So one of the goals is to raise funds to fill gaps. And really, the purpose of that is we work closely with Pacifica School District to see where they have gaps in their planning. And traditionally, it's been, I think for the last 4 to 5 years, it's been consistently the same funding in terms of the programs that we help support. So we work really closely with the district to make sure that we are aligned with their goals. The second is support core curriculum. So again, this sort of ties to working with the district and making sure that, you know, we are just PEF is not just sort of choosing on our own, you know, sort of what we tell the district that we fund, but really we're in alignment with whatever strategic plans that the district has. Third, we promote equity. So one of the models that PEF, when they first started, was to ensure that if PEF supports any programs that the district rolls out, that it's equitable across all the schools. So that would be for elementary programming, it would be for all 5, and then for like band, for instance, that would also apply to IBL. Fourth, we align with PSD strategic plan. So again, this sort of connects with filling the fund gaps and supporting the curriculum is just making sure that our strategic plan as a fundraising entity is also aligned with what the district has in mind. And then fourth, we attract grant funding. So it's my understanding, and you may know more about this from past of being on the PEF board, is that, you know, they haven't done a traditionally lot of grant seeking and receiving, and so that's something right now. PEF has one small grant from the Arts Commission, which is for Spark Poetry, but we're hoping strategically in the next couple of years to be able to build on that and to be able to go after more grant funding opportunities. And then finally, parent volunteer. So PEF is, our board is currently 5 volunteer, 100% volunteer. We have no staff, and we really rely on the volunteers of the parent community within all of those schools to help us get do the fundraising and all of our strategic visibility.
So these are the current board of directors. We have Emily as here. Alden Miller is the co-president, as stated before. Johnny Davis is vice president this year. Bruce Ferry has been a longtime treasurer of Pacifica Education Foundation, and finally his kids are hitting school.
Yeah.
He started on the board when his children were literally babies. So that's real commitment, in my opinion. And then Blair Simmons has been an outstanding secretary, and they're all bringing wonderful different skill sets to the board. And then in addition, this past year and a half, Pacific Education Foundation has really tried to increase the parent volunteerism. It is critical. Having 5 board members, as you might suspect, is challenging, and not only just for board, but just having site connections. So they are currently looking to build more connections between the sites and Pacific Education Foundation. So we do have some site connections. So we have Ashley Larson from Cabrillo. We have Jen Newman-Locks from Ocean Shore. We have Daniela Gilliam from Valamar. We have Alden, who's also representing Ocean Shore as well. And Johnny Davis is covering Sunset Ridge and is also participating in Ocean Shore. So you can see that some of the board members are also doubling as these site ambassadors as well. And this is definitely a goal that Pacifica Education Foundation is working on increasing.
And if I can just jump in for a second. So the School Ambassador Program is newly created. We just developed this about a year ago and deployed it. what the intent is we found out that there was some confusion in the schools with parents around what PEF funds and what the PTOs fund, because there is some overlap when you're talking about general communication to parents. And so what transpired was we needed to have parent volunteers that were committed to spreading, correct communication, visibility, to work with the principals and to work with the PTOs to communicate the difference between what the two entities funds, and also to prompt parents to want to volunteer as being part of our fundraising events, our other community events, as well as becoming school ambassadors themselves, and then also to ensure that, which is coming up, Donation Week, is that we have advocates in the schools that are talking about PEF and talking about how important the Donation Week is for us in terms of us meeting our fundraising goals, which then, of course, meet the goals of us being able to distribute the funds to the district. So right now we really don't have any ambassador at Ortega. And Sunset Ridge, Johnny's there, but because his child actually went to TK, so his child is now in kindergarten at Ocean Shore. So he's trying to phase out of that so he doesn't have to serve that role, and trying to get Sunset Ridge. And then IBL has also been a gap. So if anybody knows anybody that has any time, we try to be respectful of parents that decide to be ambassadors and try to give them all the tools they need to be able to do what they can. Then please let us know, because we are looking to increase that. And our goal is to really be successful, we'd like to have 2 or 3 ambassadors at every site. So as you can see, we're sort of, to be honest, we're struggling to get those commitments. So any help you guys can provide would, again, help us.
So we're going to just do a little history of some of the programs over the past few years, even though Pacific Education Foundation has been around since 2008. So over the past few years, Pacific Education Foundation has really been a strong supporter, and even prior to that, of music in Pacifica. There was no music program. There was a music scholarship fund that was initialized by Rob Schneider of SNL fame, because he is a Pacifica native. And that kind of helped to jumpstart things, but that was only a temporary amount of money. And then Pacifica Education came in and continued with that. And so we're really excited that over the past year, we have been able to spread from 5th to 4th to 3rd grade, and now we have complete 3 through 5th grade all year music for those students, for all students in Pacifica School District under Mr. Mark Umbehagen, who is wonderful, and it's amazing that he can do all of that. And they also strongly support aspects of the middle school band program with repairs, new music, some field trip support, but definitely vital things that without their support there would definitely be a challenge. And then we have also been continuing with Spark Poetry, which is an amazing program that incorporates language arts, communication, confidence building, oral language, with Mike, who has been spearheading that. And this past year, we have been able to give all 5th graders an entire year versus just a half a year of this experience. And so that has been another growth area of expansion over time. And Pacifica Education Foundation has also been a very strong supporter early on in the areas of innovative learning, technology, and the sciences. And so over the past few years, PEF has been able to support professional development, understanding and development of things like computer science integration within our schools is a very important subject in the area of STEAM, and also more recently has helped to support some of the funding of the professional development that we've had this past year. So we've had teachers that were able to go to the Exploratorium Institute. We've had amazing internal lab science development with our science specialist. And then we also have a science adoption committee because the new curriculum is finally out for science for NGSS, and so that's a very big thing that you have to go through the process, and so they have been helping us with providing funds for that as well. Skip that. Looking forward. So we are looking to continue what we have created over the years. Music is vitally important, and there is strong parent support, obviously, with music, and the idea that we have 3 through 5th. Then we have 6th grade as well, equity across all of our districts, and that really gives a nice foundation for those who wish to continue in that area of music, and gives them that opportunity to go through high school if they wish. So that's really important. And then again, continuing the full year of 5th grade experiences with Spark Poetry is going to be another one. And Pacific Education Foundation has also graciously agreed to help continue to support STEAM experiences that we are trying to offer. Again, whether that is innovative learning experiences like how do we incorporate making in the classroom, and what is the role of a makerspace at a school site, because we do have sites that are now creating and implementing makerspaces, and what is the role of hands-on learning and collaboration and the soft skills that are really important for today's children, for tomorrow's world, and for the job field. Also, excitingly, on my end, I feel, Pacifica Education Foundation has also agreed to fund 6 site science leads for next year. So just so you have an understanding, Pacifica District has an Access, Equity, and Innovation specialist. They have 2 humanities specialists that work with K-5 and 6-8, and a 0.5 math specialist, and so they are able, and we have a 0.5 science specialist, and so we have leads at each site that we all work with. So the idea of growing out, right? So we're talking, we're collaborating, and we're growing out our education, our knowledge, and those leads are really vital in helping other people at their site as well. So science, really important. With all the new standards that have come along and the transition that we're going through, it is really a great time to be able to have a science lead as well, and really looking forward to how 4 of us and all those leads can start working more collaboratively in an integrated way. So thank you, Pat. And would you like to talk about the objectives?
Sure, I'll just go quickly over the objectives. So really it's to grow and diversify the board. Again, I mentioned we have 5. We're sadly at our charter, we're at our bylaws minimum, so we're always actively recruiting board members that want to join and support the district and the students in the district. And then again, I mentioned about our school ambassadors program and like sort of getting every school to have at least 1 to 3. So we're also trying to build and strengthen our family membership program. So what we launched in the fall of this year, of the school year, was a family membership program. So the family membership program has between 25, 100, so these are the membership levels, 250 to 500, and so there's various benefits that come with that. Our goal is to really strengthen and build that and move away from having 3 to 4, fundraising events where we're asking the same pool of parents every time for individual donations, and try to move them more towards a membership program. So you'll hear more about that as we're rolling that out and we're refining it. We do have 55 current members, so we're on our way. We also want to build a stronger volunteer base. So we have the ambassadors, but we also just want people out there to support us and to be able to call on to do like donation week and being on site. They're not necessarily ambassadors, but they will be there and help to spread the word. We want to embark on a communication campaign to increase awareness of PEF and the programs it funds. Again, this goes back to sort of some confusion between what PEF funds or who are we versus the PTOs, and just really sort of having brand awareness and sort of clarity with all the parents about what we do, what the PTOs do. And then finally, we want to collaborate with the site PTOs to strengthen relationships and reach parents. So PTOs are doing their own fundraising events at all the schools. PEF is doing our own, so we really want to integrate and work better with each other, so it's not a perceived competition, but that we really are all here to do the same thing, is to support our kids and make sure that they get the fund that they need in order to have a better quality education.
So these are some ways you can help. by just spreading the word on Pacifica Education Foundation, reaching out in that way, talking up and understanding more about the programs that they do provide for our district and for equitable access across our entire district. Also, again, volunteerism, board candidates would be amazing. So again, anybody who is willing to, take that leap of, it's great work, it's meaningful work. And then also just grants. So that's something we really want to focus on. On a side note, I've worked with Education Foundation for about 4 years now, and I'm just really amazed at the dedication that these parents really do have for this district, and really having that global sense of how we can really make sure that in our district we are being equitable, because we know that is a challenging thing to do at times. And I'm also looking forward to the continued conversation about the role of the district to cite PTOs, and the role of the district to Pacifica Education Foundation, and how we can continue to work on streamlining that. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is PEF, besides the grants, are they doing outreach just to the Pacifica community outside of the schools or any of the organizations?
For grants or just
For any kind of
fundraising?
support, fundraising and just general support?
It's mostly, my understanding, I've only been on the board for a year, so I'm speaking very limited, and Elizabeth has a lot of background, so please jump in if I'm misspeaking or I'm just not covering it. They just haven't had the bandwidth. Typically, I have a lot of experience in nonprofits. They usually have a staff member, typically that really sort of can carve out that time to do it. The last few years, from what I know, it's the board, the PEF board is just concentrating on trying to meet our fundraising goal that is set. So we fundraise in the year in which we expend that money to the district, which is very stressful. And so we just haven't had the bandwidth to be able to look outside to corporations. We've tried, but you really need to have a substantial amount of time just to do the research to find out where there would be a good fit, connecting, meeting the right people, and then sort of going through that process. But again, we're hoping that will change sometime in the near future. But really, again, our fundraising has really been the parents community. We're trying to target more like kindergartens and getting them in. The challenge that we're having with parents around just individual fundraising is parents tend to give if their kids are benefiting from the program.
Right.
So our messaging needs to be stronger in the sense of, listen, this is all of a community. If you provide contributions now and support these programs, they're here for your children when they get of age to be able to benefit. So it's sort of that cycle. So we're, as a 5-person board, is trying to figure out the best way to communicate that and to do it effectively. So.
Well, for a 5-person board, you do an amazing job, so it's not a comment on what.
I'm glad you say that, because we meet with Heather and we're like, okay, we don't want people to burn out because we're only at 5. So, but
Right.
Again, it's there's a lot at stake, and so all 5 of us, I can speak on behalf of us, and also the board members that have come before me, is that it's just a really it's dedication to the kids. It's just there's a lot at stake if we don't continue to do what we do. We just have to. We're challenged now in figuring out a better way of doing it, because individual fundraising with 4 events a year is not sustainable. So.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
To that similar point, there have been outreach to Genentech and the different companies that we know. We have a lot of parents that work for those companies, but those companies have made it pretty clear that, like, Genentech supports schools or different programs in South City, as South San Francisco and stuff like that, and their immediate community.
Right.
We're also kind of in between, where we don't have as high a rate of Title I kids as some other districts, but yet we're not as affluent as the others, so we're kind of in the gray zone in between. And so it's kind of like, well, you have enough, or a lot of ways to look at it. So,
Well, I should say the last year we have been communicating more with parents around our fundraising campaigns to see if your company has a company match. I don't think that was done a lot in the past in terms of just directly saying, and getting parents to sort of think, they click and they put their credit card, wait, maybe I need to stop and I need to figure out and sort of commit to that and see if there's some sort of match. So this last, since our fundraising started in September, we have gotten a lot more corporate donations as a result of employee matching programs. So that's really positive.
Well, thank you for everything you do.
Oh,
It's amazing.
So, you guys are great, and I love the way that you work, and I like that you're trying to get ambassadors into the school, because I do see that I've seen it firsthand that there is a competition between PTOs and PEF, right? And if you guys could just work together to leverage more money for everybody, that would be great. But there's PTOs are sort of like, this is our money for our kids, rather than trying to spread it out through the whole district, which is what you guys do. That's your model, right? So one place though that I'm kind of concerned, because one of your core your core, what did you call them? Those bubbles, core goals, was to sort of fill gaps and also to promote equity. And you used the word equity a lot, and my whole career is about trying to provide equitable funding for kids. So one group though that I would really like to see PEF look towards, who might not be getting, I'm not sure, any of the PEF funding, would be special education students, and particularly more severely disabled, the ones that are served over at Lindemar, because you have programs that are going district-wide, but really for the general education population.
That's true.
And I think I brought this up, I think we had a meeting over at Valimar like 2 years ago or something like that with PEF, and it was before you were on, but I think I brought this up before as well, and I would just personally be very, very interested to see if there was some effort made towards making sure that some PEF dollars went towards our disabled population.
Okay, I'll definitely take it back to the PEF board
Okay.
and we'll discuss it.
Okay, because that's part of equity
Yeah.
too, right? And universal coverage for programs like music across the whole district, that's more almost of an equality thing in my book than an equity thing. Like you have equal access to these services, but when we talk about equity, some of these kids have different types of needs, or needs for different types of programming that it will be no less innovative or beautiful for them, but just different, right? So.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I just want to make a plug for Donation Week next week.
Yes,
You'll be
thank
sitting
you.
outside the schools and getting lots of messages around every day. They have a kind of feature, and if you are a member of the Facebook group, you'll see some of the things that are on there as well. You'll see some Pacifica principals have made some videos highlighting the programs that are going on, and we're just really excited and hope to support PEF, and I know they'll be successful.
And we have a very ambitious goal of raising $93,000
In 1 week.
Yeah.
93 grand.
What we need, so. And like the Facebook page. So if
Yes,
you're on
like and
Facebook,
share,
definitely like and share.
Like and share, like and share.
Yeah.
Thank
Great, thank you.
So
Thank you very
one more
much.
question?
Oh, sure.
So you're going to fund the leads, the science leads, and that is a stipended position?
That is correct.
And so have we ever had PEF paying for people, for staff?
No, not that I'm aware.
Well,
No, yes,
we
the
pay
music teacher. Yeah.
Reimburse,
Yeah,
they
yes.
reimburse.
And Spark
So-
Poetry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Spark
smart,
Poetry,
yeah.
they reimburse the district, so that the person is not an employee of PEF per se, they're employee of the district, and then PEF reimburses.
Yeah, all the funding that PEF commits runs through the district, and it's on a reimbursement schedule.
Okay, all right, so that seems to work out.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, another presentation, Pacifica Resource Center.
So our friends in the Pacifica Resource Center have been very patient with us as they requested to present a long time ago, and the rookie in me just didn't do it quite right. But I'd like to introduce Anita Reese. She's the director of the Pacifica Resource Center. And Gordon, are you going to present as well? Or
No,
you're going to let
all
the big
the
boss?
time to Anita.
Perfect, excellent. Great. We can help you hand those up.
I can do something.
He's not just a pretty face.
Thank you.
So just to set this conversation up is that Pacifica Resource Center has recently done a strategic plan, and so in addition to thinking about how this can serve our students and serve our schools, we also want to think about their model as a strategic plan, because we probably need to, in some way, refresh ours in the next year or so.
Well, I just want to thank you all for giving us the time to speak with you. I'll give a little bit of background about what PRC is and what we do, and then get into our actual strategic plan. So we've been around for over 40 years, and our mission is to support the economic security of Pacifica families and individuals by providing a safety net of food, housing assistance, and other critical services, including coaching, advocacy, information, and referral. And our vision is to assure that the basic needs of every Pacifican are met so that every member of our community has the opportunity to thrive, whatever that means for them. We basically meet folks where they are, and if we can't provide them directly with services, then we'll find those services for them. So it's really important to us to just make sure that we have as many resources available in-house as possible. So this is just a little bit about what we've done over the last year. We have for many years served 1 in 10 Pacifica families. Specifically, we have a very extensive food program. Over 600,000 pounds of food was distributed last year that benefited 27,000 Pacifica children, adults, and seniors. Many of these folks come back multiple times, right? So it is duplicated, not unduplicated. We prevented homelessness and sheltered 122 Pacificans. Prepared taxes for 188 households, which generated nearly $220,000 in refunds. I just did the numbers for this tax season since it just ended, and I think it was $320,000, so it was pretty exciting, and just over 200 households. And by that, in addition to generating those taxes, we also save them money, right? So we save them $40,000 in tax preparation fees because they didn't have to pay for their taxes being prepared, and we can do them all, including e-file and everything. So it's really a great addition to our programs. We also helped prepare 158 Pacifica youth for the new school year. We do we check every school's, and Laverne knows this because she's helped in the past, checked every school's list, then we combine them all so that every kindergartner gets all of the potential things that they might need, every first grader, second grader. So what ends up happening is the students end up having more than what they need, but at least everything that they need, so that we don't just pick certain ones. So it's very specific to the students that are coming in. We don't necessarily check to see what school they're going to because we can't get that detailed, but we do just basically, if we know what grade they're in, then we give them everything they need for that grade level, along with a new backpack. We also provided happy holidays to 224 children through our holiday gift program, and provided Thanksgiving assistance to 527 Pacificans. This is where we match community members with our families, and the community members go out and shop for their holiday gifts. We also provided over 300 showers to homeless Pacificans to help them prepare for work, job interviews, and housing search. This is one of the additions that we made when we brought in our new building. Our new building is 75% food-related and 25% shower, so that we were able to offer that. And Gordon was instrumental in doing that. He nearly ripped his hair out when I said, "Can we get a shower too?" But he did it, and he's happy. So after extensive interviewing, we had a consultant who interviewed probably 50 different folks from the community, including board members, staff, volunteers, supporters, policymakers, funders. We came up with these 3 main strategic goals. One is to maintain the services that we already provide. So continuing to serve 1 in 10 families, most of who have no or extremely low income, advocating for policies and support and resources to bring to Pacifica, basically around things that we see are gaps in services, and primarily it's fallen into the homeless services arena because, as Andrea mentioned, there is a housing or a shelter crisis in Pacifica. There are no shelters on the coast, very limited resources. It's very difficult for us oftentimes to get folks connected to those services, and for that reason, we're paying attention. We're watching, we're documenting, and then we're using that information to advocate for more resources. And then lastly is to expand into providing services to folks who have higher incomes. The example that I like to use is back during the Great Recession, many folks lost their homes because they didn't know, actually, that we could pay for a mortgage. And if they had come to us when they got behind on their mortgage, we could have actually saved their home potentially. It could have sent them on a different trajectory. So we're really trying hard to make sure that folks who are on the edge know that we can provide them resources and support. And I'll get into that a little bit more when we get to that. So one of the things that we did as part of our strategic plan was really evaluate where we were. And what we learned is that we really needed to increase our staff capacity to execute these strategic goals, right? It sort of pushes us to do things a little differently, especially what we're terming right now pre-crisis. I don't really like that term, but it describes what we're talking about. Folks who are not quite in crisis yet, but they could be at any moment, right? Loss of job, an illness, something like that could, tip their scale. And then just new tactics to raise awareness about what we provide, because it's not so often people see us as, I remember that when I first started, everybody's like, oh yeah, you're the food bank. And I'm like, no, we do more than food, So now we're finally getting folks to see that we do more than food, but we're still really, the folks who know us are people who needed our services or know somebody who needed our services. Other folks in the community don't really know about Pacifica Resource Center, and on the one hand, that's okay. It keeps some of their privacy. There's more privacy as a result. But the problem is folks who could use our help don't know about us, and they don't know that they could come in and get our services. So around maintaining services. That's our first goal. We really are looking to expand our services overall, but not at the expense of what we already do well. So I won't go into the details, but you all have copies. You can look at our measurable goals and the actions that we're planning to do. But for the most part, it's continuing to do what we're doing right now. And then in terms of advocating and monitoring, like I mentioned, a lot of that has to do currently around homelessness in Pacifica. One really good example of how we have historically documented the need in Pacifica is every 2 years there's a one-day homeless count. And so we work really hard to recruit folks who have that life experience to help us go out and count the homeless during that day. It's a one-day count. It happened in January of this year. We don't have the numbers yet, but in the past, the last one that we had was in 2017, and in that year we had 112 counted homeless on that day, on that point in time count, and it was the highest in all of San Mateo County. And so part of that, I think, was there was new technology to do the tracking, and then the other is that we worked really hard to make sure that every group that went out to do the counting had a homeless guide, somebody who is an expert, right, who could say, no, that's where somebody is living, that's a car that somebody's in, those kinds of things, because the reality is folks who are living in vehicles are trying to stay under the radar. The folks in RVs make it very difficult for them to hide and be under the radar, but the other folks who are in cars are trying to be quiet and not make any issues. Because of that documentation, the county released an RFP for households living in vehicles, and Pacifica will be the site for Region 3, which is the coast and Daly City, and I think some other, Colma. Yeah, and Broadmoor. So that area. So PRC, we are partnering with Life Moves, which is the shelter program in San Mateo County, and they will be applying for those funds, and when they hire the outreach worker, the worker will be in Pacifica, which is great. It gives us an opportunity to really provide support to our folks in vehicles, and they will be basically housed there, but they'll go out wherever they need to go. So it just gives us it's bringing that resource to Pacifica because it's needed. And then last is around expanding our services. So some of you all mentioned the cost of living in this area. I think it was you, Jesse. Just that the cost of living is so high. A family of 4 earning under $117,000 is considered low income in this area. And for that reason, that's what we're really targeting. We aren't necessarily expecting to see a lot of folks who are making $100,000 or more, but the reality is we could actually provide services for those folks because they are struggling. And if we could provide them with food or other resources, help during the holidays or help during seasonal programs like our back to school program, that would free up their income to use it for the other things that they are struggling to pay. And so that's really where we're looking to try to expand. One of the programs or 2 things we've done so far is a grocery delivery program associated with our monthly family harvest. And so we have 11 families who are getting their food delivered to them. And as part of that program, they're committing to save $25 a month. So not only are they getting 100 to 200 pounds of food, saving them probably $200 or $300 a month, they're also using that savings to save. And then the other is that we've added an online form on our website so that folks from the comfort of their own home can send us information about their income, their household size, and what kind of support they need. And then we'll reach out to them proactively so that they don't have to, because part of the challenge is people coming through our door. Right? It's actually showing up or giving us a call. And so one of the things that we recognize is that so many things are done electronically and mobily that, we could provide that support in that way. And it's become, we just launched it probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we're getting like 3 hits a day. So there's definitely been some good movement there. And then that's it. Except that I do want to make one more plug about the census. So the census is happening in 2020, and one of the things that we're really trying to do is make sure that everybody is counted. So PRC will continue to just mention it every chance we get, because I use the census all the time, just to check, income levels, how many, just where folks are lower income, all of the things that are so important to the work that we do, and being able to use that data is key. So it's really important to us that everybody gets counted, and I know that for funding for schools, it's also just as important. So I know you all will be probably doing a bunch of that too. And then our information's up front. Either me or Marina Castellanos, who's our direct services manager, is happy to answer any additional questions if you come up with any after this, or if there's any other things that we want to try to partner on.
We have tentatively scheduled a meeting with principals, just similar but maybe more nuts and bolts presentation with the principals, just because I think they're often the main point of contact, and we'll look at how to bring some more information into the schools. So what questions do you have?
I don't know where Pacifica Resource Center gets their funding. Can you give?
Oh, sure. No. We get funding from, we have a county contract, and as well as get some funding from the city. And then we have some foundation funding, individual donors. It's a mix. It's probably about a third. A third is government, and then another third. It's close to a third, but not quite. So one of the things that I did when I started was try to diversify our funding, because we had I think it was 80% government funding, and that's always scary to me.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I haven't done my homework on you guys. I know where you guys are. I love you guys, but who's on your board of directors, and what's the mix?
Gordon's one of them. We have currently we have 12 board members. There's probably, the last time I looked, I just had to do this for something else. There's 6 women, 6 men, which is interesting because when I started it was all women. So and at one point there were more men than women, so we've evened out a little bit. And I'd probably say about half of the folks are retired. The other half are, currently working. A couple who are small business owners in town. A couple of lawyers, retired lawyers. Bookkeeper, somebody on staff for the board of supervisors, so a mix of folks. We're looking to add The ideal would be to add 3 more board members, because there are some folks who are hitting up, getting close to their term limits, and we ask that folks take a break, a 1-year break before they come back on. It's just 2 2-year terms. And so we're trying to beef up our board, so when those folks leave, we aren't going to have, 7 board members, which we've had in the past. So, yeah.
Anybody else? I just want to make a comment. I was familiar with PRC just a little bit and volunteered. When you go and volunteer, you see what they do there, and you can't believe everything that they do, because you just think, oh, PRC, maybe I can get some food. No, it's like over 100 and something referrals, right? And I'm just curious because, when I was volunteering in the schools, one of the librarians and / substitute teacher, this wasn't even in the realm of PRC at that time, but she's like, I know the kids who are hungry, and I have, stashed in my drawer some snack bars, that she can give those kids, because the teachers are the ones who knows the kids that are hungry. And so, I don't know if there's a way, that we can help those kids, that are coming to school hungry and not eating, but I think that would be a great thing we could do.
Yes.
The other thing is, so I didn't know everything that PRC did, so I don't know if you have a flyer or if we could, help by distributing that to the newsletters. And I was just reminded a couple weeks ago by one of the soccer moms that you would think was very stable, but she's now living with somebody else, which couch surfing is also considered homelessness. And I'm sure she makes that under what you're saying, and I just don't think that they're aware of the new numbers, of when they could reach out and get help. And so I just wanted to thank you too for coming.
That's one of the reasons we wanted to come here. Is to spread that word.
Exactly.
Is to be able to open that up, because we think that the schools would be an excellent place to let people know that these services exist, and to be able to partner in some way, in whatever way is comfortable for families and the district and the resource center to be able to contribute to this. So we welcome the opportunity to work with the principals and see what we can do, and anything further at the school sites themselves.
Well, that's what got me thinking is, oh yeah, there was the librarian / substitute who knew the kids, sitting in front of her.
So if we can, one of our interests is getting our principals and our teachers to meet Robbie, and Robbie's last name is escaping me, Marshall? Bancroft. And Robbie's the one that will say, hey, teachers, I'll get you some food, so that it doesn't have, that's money that can go back into your salary, so that you're not buying the graham crackers for those kids.
Right, exactly. I think there's definitely some ways for us to be able to partner in that way to get some snack foods to the teachers who feel like it's important to have. I would imagine every teacher wouldn't mind having some. And then the other thing that we've been talking about is having, whether that's once a month, to have our staff available on site at the schools to be to offer services and support. So whether it's a referral from a teacher to a family to come see us, or we're there, or even for the teachers for that matter, because the reality is that it's really expensive to live here. So all of those things are things that that we're definitely open to, and also part of this the work around the expansion to that particular population. One of the things that we're doing right now is exactly that, is exploring to see what kinds of changes can we make to our programs to make it easier for folks to access, which could be, like I said, going to you, but also figuring out and talking to folks about what is the barrier to coming in for service, and how might we change that so that more folks will come.
So I remember for years at Ocean Shore, there was somebody that on Wednesday they brought bread. I don't know if they still.
That was from Safeway.
That was Safeway. And that is always cleared out that day. And so I know we've, kind of tossed around the idea in the past of a food pantry at some of our sites that might have more people that would use it than others. And, maybe an idea to toss around again, that food, with food pantries open, that you help the principals
Right.
manage that in some way, since that's more your expertise than ours. But, we certainly have the people that need it.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, we're definitely open to any of those things, because we know that there are populations in the community that we're missing, and so we just need to figure out ways to reach out to them and connect them to resources, for sure.
A lot of people in Pacifica, I think, like to believe that everybody here is middle class, and, we're not.
Yeah.
And there are a whole large, a lot more than we know, people that are one paycheck away,
Yes.
or, one bad car or medical bill or something like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So those who have done presentations, if you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. You don't have to stay for the bylaws and policies if you don't want. Thank you.
We have,
You'll miss more presentations.
yeah, exactly.
We've got the facilities master plan coming.
We have, we are into the district business category, and so I would introduce Maria Gavidia to do the resolutions.
Well, we certainly appreciate our staff all year round for everything they do for our students and for the district and for the district's mission. But May is a particularly special time because all across the state and across the nation, May is designated as Teacher and for Certificated and Classified Employee Appreciation Month. And so we bring resolutions to you to recognize the Day of the Teacher, which is the week of the appreciation, Teacher Appreciation Week, May 6th to 10th, and May 7th as the Day of the Teacher, and May 19th to 25th, week of the classified employee. And so we have resolutions for you.
So I have copies for you, but I'm happy to read them out loud. So in terms of the Day of the Teacher and Appreciation Week, this is also in that board packet. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas a strong, effective system of free public school education for all children and youth is essential to our democratic system of government, and whereas today's teachers nurture the academic, social, emotional, and physical development of students, preparing the workforce of the future, and whereas no other profession touches as many persons with such a lasting effect, and whereas good teaching grows in value and pays dividends far beyond the classroom, whereas May 6th through the 10th, 2019 has been designated National Teacher Appreciation Week, with May 7th proclaimed as Day of the Teacher. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District proudly proclaims its appreciation for the outstanding job performed each and every day by the teachers of the district who, through their gift of teaching, enrich the lives of their students. So we have a motion.
Do we have a motion to approve? Resolution number 2019-04-24-A.
I'll move. I'll second then.
Okay, all those in favor?
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
And so the Board of Trustees, Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, recognizes Classified School Employee Week. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, and whereas classified school employees provide valuable services to the schools and students of Pacifica School District that includes instruction, nutrition, transportation, facilities and grounds, as well as help, and whereas classified school employees contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive and joyful learning environment, and whereas classified school employees serve a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Pacifica School District students, and whereas classified school employees employed by the Pacifica School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District hereby recognizes and honors the contributions of classified school employees to quality education in the state of California and in the Pacifica School District, and declares the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2019, as Classified School Employee Week in the Pacifica School District, regularly passed and adopted on this day of the 24th, after we vote.
Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 2019-04-24-B?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Board passes by vote. Thank you.
And thank you to all of the classified employees in our audience.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Can I just make one quick mention? That both of these, while very well written, I think maybe in the future, or we can just remember that, this does talk about how these employees nurture our children, but they really nurture our families. They really nurture our community. Having been a parent in the school district, there were many times that teachers and classified were really there for our whole family. So I would just like to include that bit, that it's yes, our students are their immediate, but really our whole, the Pacifica community really is what it is because of our districts, and our districts are what they are because of our people. So I just wanted to include that.
I didn't notice that in the resolutions themselves, because in the memo, it does say
Right.
serving, so it's in the memo, but not in the resolution, so that's a good point.
So.
Good catch. Thank you.
Okay, so approval of the Facilities Master Plan LCAP operations. Josie.
Okay, so with the passage of Measure O last fall, we did start working on our facilities master planning. And we engaged WLC architects to help us work through our facilities master plan. And the board did hold a study session April 10th to review in detail the facilities master plan. And so tonight we're presenting it again and asking for approval for the facilities master plan. So we do have Kevin McCoy and CC Ming from WLC Architects here tonight to present the facilities master plan.
Half the light is burned out.
What's happening to
Is it
our
the light?
projector is going?
We need a new bulb.
Oh, no way. Oh, this is
It's all right, all the interesting stuff's on the right-hand side of every page.
Well, CC, you're gonna have to do a real dog and pony show.
That is ridiculous. Okay,
It just
We got copies
proves
here,
why
too.
we might.
so I wonder how our audience can have access to that.
Is there a copy for them?
We don't have copies, the copies were like 80 pages and it took us an hour. So let's have Will sit in the middle of the audience.
Yeah.
I have an extra.
Actually, the board can see.
If anybody wants it, I have extra printed.
What if you,
Sue and I were on the committee.
can I just suggest you unplug it and plug it back in?
Yeah.
I could run and get my big screen if you're up here somewhere.
Yeah, actually, that would,
That might be a good idea.
I think we can get started. I mean, that would be a snafu of a great proportion. And I have, mine is not the thickest packet, but you guys could follow along on this.
Right before we start.
Everything was working so perfectly up until this moment.
it's Murphy's Law.
Jinxed it. 9:30. I'll still roll it.
What time? Okay, all right.
See how late it goes.
Okay, so let's keep moving along. I want to introduce Cece and Kevin and thank the members of the committee that are here. And so
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Olson, members of the cabinet and the audience. Once again, my name is Kevin McQuarrie, and I'm principal of WLC Architects, and CC Ming is an associate and project architect. And I want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to work with you and to develop some amazing visions that came from the community from many, many meetings and many hours that people had put in on this. And so it's that kind of effort and kind of work that makes our job so enjoyable to come up with the vision and the implementation processes that we did here. So, and also a big shout out and thanks to the community for their support of the bond. Without that, we wouldn't be here to talk about some of these amazing opportunities. So I just wanted to say thank you, and CC is going to walk you through the master plan now.
Thank you. So I am presenting to you the 2019 Facility Master Plan for the PSD. And what is the ultimate goal of the master plan?
Okay, well.
Is to provide facilities to support our instructional goals. So here is the district guiding principles. So this is the 5 C's of 21st century learning, and also district's 21st century educational framework, strategic plan, and companion plans. So keeping these in mind, construction follows instruction. So we started the master planning process with physical condition assessment. And WLC Architects and EMG walked out to the site and looked at all the buildings, including the district offices, and evaluated the existing conditions of the site. And then EMG provided a detailed report of the conditions of each of the school site. Garland Company, the roofing company that's been maintaining the district schools for the past, since year 2000, did a roofing survey of all the schools. They inspected all the roofs and also provided detailed reports. So these physical condition assessment helped us identify the deferred maintenance items and the cost needed for the master plan. And simultaneously, WLC Architects, us, conducted the educational suitability assessment. So look at, the room sizes, adjacencies, relationships, to see if the programs or the facility really support the teaching activities that's going to happen in the school. And the district also did a demographic study for the district and see that the enrollment trend is pretty stable. And then we started the process of getting school and community feedback. So we conducted 2 rounds of school meetings at each of the school sites, as well as a meeting at the district office, and also met with district M&O teams. And each of the school site meeting, we did poster notes as well as sticky notes and conducted a voting process to vote on all the items that each of the school site wishes. And then we conducted community meetings to include neighbors, community members, parents, and also Heather, the superintendent, met with the sports leagues regarding the sports field. So in each of the community meetings, we also went through the same voting process and all these process generated, this table on the right. It counts the total number of votes from the staff and from the community, identified an overall priority. So the list on the left is the priority outcome from this process. So this comprehensive full list helped us and guided us generate the full Monty master plan for each of the school, which kind of look like this. This is an example for Sunset, for Ocean Shore. You can see everything that's desired for the school. And that generated a need of almost more than $200 million for the entire district. But we know that we only have $55 million. So the next process is then the district leadership met, and we had a series of district leadership meetings and also board workshops to help us. How do we go from a $200 million and reach the $55 million goal? So through these meetings, we identified a the master plan guidelines, site accessibility, student safety, and filtered water, drinkable water, and also buildings' overall code compliance. Those are tier 1. And also fix major deferred maintenance issues like roofs, paint, rust control, hot water, flooring, HVAC, kitchen equipment, fencing, etc. And also, we want to improve fields and playgrounds with the community use in mind. We want to improve instruction technology. We want to house academic programs in permanent construction. And we want to accommodate special ed by providing pull-out rooms and students' restrooms. We want to enlarge multi-purpose rooms. And we want to provide next-generation collaborative classrooms and flexible furniture. So these are the identified key guidelines we use to narrow from $200 million needs to a $55 million budget. So these are the bond implementation priorities per school. So the tier 1 include safety hardware, signage, drinking fountain as needed. So after the last board workshop, specific questions raised regarding the exterior drinking fountain. So the 2 schools that are getting those drinking fountains, Valimar and Sunset Ridge. So we followed up with those 2 schools. We talked to the school principal and we explored different solutions or options regarding the enclosure, and then we increased the budget in the master plan accordingly. So highlighted projects under tier 1 are, for Sunset Ridge, is complete the ADA path of travel by adding a curb ramp. Ocean Shore is replace 1 urinal with toilet at a boys' restroom. So Valimar, a new kiln room to replace the non-code compliant kiln shed. At Cabrillo, replace 1 urinal with 1 toilet and 2 boys' restrooms. And Ortega, add 1 boys' toilet stall at 2 boys' restrooms. Enlarge both men and women's restrooms. And for district office, it's ADA access and the ESS building safety egress. So these are the tier 1 that's fully included in the master plan. So for tier 2, typical items include the upkeep, repair, replacement of painting, roofing, HVAC, miscellaneous interior needs, kitchen equipment, fence, pavement, outdoor furniture, play structure. And the highlighted projects are at Ocean Shore, is play structure replacement. On Ortega, is field renovation using synthetic turf, and play structure replacement. And so these are the tier 2. I wish I could see better from this distance, but maybe I'll just walk.
So fencing at Sunset Ridge, Ocean Shore, and Ingrid B. Lacey, and Valimar, and Cabrillo, and Ortega, and district office?
So Sunset Ridge fencing, parking lot improvement, shading trees. Ocean Shore is fencing, play structure replacement, outdoor furniture replacement, IBL fencing, security camera, outdoor furniture replacement. Valimar fencing, drop-off improvement, relocate basketball court, and outdoor furniture replacement. Cabrillo is fencing, Ortega is fencing, play structure replacement, and field renovation. Lindamar Education Center is partial asphalt resurfacing. District office is fencing and landscape improvement. So for tier 3, each of the school site will get flexible furniture for designated collaborative classrooms, except Ocean Shore, which already has flexible furniture, and also pod area and the library. And also, we will add a door between 2 designated collaborative classrooms, except at Ortega and IBL, where the door is dependent on adding a new pull-out room, which are not included in the master plan. So the highlighted projects, the key projects are, for Sunset Ridge, is add a special ed pull-out room, add a student restroom to kindergarten, rearrange cabinetry and desk in the admin reception area to allow for bigger waiting area, enlarge existing kitchen, and pave the mud area in the kindergarten playground. For Ocean Shore, replace existing 2 classroom portables with permanent building adjoining the existing classroom wing. And to build a new 1920 square feet freestanding modular bedroom, and landscaping after the portable removal, and provide electronic wireless gate lock for the monorail, the remote monorail gate. For IBL, is change 1 exterior door in the admin reception area into a window to increase the supervision to the main entry, and to build a new lunch shelter. Valamar is adding a pull-out spaces to designated collaborative classrooms, enlarge the middle school D-wing classroom to state standards with new pull-out rooms and new furniture for the NPR. For Cabrillo, is music room and SDC classroom swap the location because of the noise issue in the music room, remove computer lab, and to build a new gym with a stage that can house 620 people assembly with access stair and elevator to upper deck, and the restrooms at elevator lobby. And a new covered walkway will connect the new building to the existing building. At Ortega, we'll add 1 single stall students' restroom to each of the 2 special ed classrooms. And we'll provide a new outdoor learning space between the C wing and administration wing, which right now is heavily sloped and is a tripping hazard. And the third item is to add a door separating the C wing classroom from the restroom lobby. This is to provide restroom access and separating the lobby area from the rest of the building for the sports leagues after hours. For Lindamar Education Center is to remodel the staff restroom. District office, there's no tier 3 items. So this is a snapshot of their entire wish list. And the highlighted, the bold white text are the items that's included in the master plan. So this, you can see the magnitude of what are items included compared to their wish list. So the Sunset Ridge, Ocean Shore, IBL, and Lindamar. And this is the Valamar, Cabrillo, Ortega. So you can see almost more than 50% of their wish list has been incorporated in the master plan. So now with that, we are down to $55 million, which included about $1.4 million for tier 1, about $20.5 million for tier 2, and about $21 million for tier 3, with a district-wide technology plan at $12 million. So these total adds up to almost $55 million. So that's the summary of the master plan. Do you wish to see the individual site plan of each of the school? Any questions?
Yeah, I think actually that might be a good idea, is to take the questions. So rather than go into each of the individual site plans, because I think we talked about that mostly in the work study.
Yeah.
What questions do you have?
I know you explained this to me one time before, but 60 million becomes 55 because of,
It was 55 million.
It was 55.
oh.
The bond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Wait, like 60.
Why was 60 in my mind? Okay, yeah, it looks like we spent it all. Or will spend it all.
Oh, no problem. One question with the schools getting the fencing, has it been decided what type of fencing? Because like I mentioned before at the Sanchez Art Center, they've tried to put fencing around the soccer fields there, and people or whatever have a tendency to cut it and make openings so that it's a shorter path for their car, from their car onto the field.
Oh, no.
And, oh, yeah. In several places, so I was wondering if it's going to be chain link or if it had been decided yet what type of fencing, because otherwise the repair would outweigh.
Yes, so right now, what's in the master plan is if the fence is at the school front, that, parents drive, they park, then it's those wrought iron decorative fence. But if it's enclosed, a sports field, for example, at Ortega, it's the non-climb type chain link. Because there is a cost difference between.
The non-climb is just a very small opening.
So it could still be cut. And
Well, the interesting thing about it is because it's a 1-inch square opening, you can't get the big bolt cutters and things like that into it, so it really tends to discourage being able to cut it.
Okay, because that's been a constant battle over there with them. I think the city put it in, the cost of, like I said, repairing it is constant.
So I have a few questions, but it's really more on the itemized project costs.
Yes.
For Tier 1, you have IBL. What were the security upgrade cameras, intrusion alarm?
Yeah, so at IBL, they have heavy vandalism at the boys' restrooms, inside the boys' restrooms. They also have heavy vandalism around the perimeter where they break the windows. And there are also some hidden areas like behind the gym, where they cannot see or supervise. So those are the areas proposing the security cameras. And the principal mentioned that he has a principal at another school, so ever since they installed those security cameras, the vandalism rate has been cut in half.
So is this going to be something that goes like cloud storage, video stuff, or do we know how those cameras are going to work? I mean, is that going to be an ongoing cost?
At this point, we haven't gotten to that level of detail as to how the district wishes to manage those kind of systems. There's lots of different ways to do it.
Right, and there's some that are very expensive, that's why I'm asking.
And so what we have put in are cameras that are costed cameras that are typical for schools and suitable for being able to apprehend individuals. So you have to be able to see them and be able to identify them in order for the cameras to be useful. There are some cases though where it's just the fact that the camera is there, that tends to be a deterrent as well.
Okay, so that's going to be something we'll look at down the road then.
Yep.
On the chain link rolling gate, I'm just wondering, Sunset Ridge, IBL, there's quite a difference on cost. Is this just because of the size of the gate needed?
Yes and no. So at IBL, the existing one is a manual gate. And also they don't use that gate to lead to a parking lot. That's why it's a manual gate, because the maintenance use that gate to get onto the playground. However, at Sunset Ridge, it's a gate for teachers drive through. That's why it's a motorized gate. And also because it's at the school front, the existing school front are wrought iron fence. So that's why the rolling gate is also a wrought iron decorative type of rolling gate. That's why it costs more.
And who made the decision on making it decorative?
It's our proposal. The reason is, first of all, the when you pass the bond, you want a good community impression. So the first thing, you drive to a school, you really don't see the building, it's a fence is the first thing you see. And the chain link might have a slightly smaller initial construction cost, but over time, they really look bad. And it's easily vandal prone. But if you look at those cast, the wrought iron tile fence, they last forever. And like 20 years from now, they look like still brand new. And the cost differences for chain link installed is $80 a linear foot for 8-foot fence.
Right.
And for decorative fence, it's $120 a linear foot.
Because I'm looking, the next one at Ortega, you have as an ornamental. This one you say is chain link at Sunset Ridge. So, and Ortega's as ornamental it's not right at the front. So when we got to that place, I know a lot of these will be looking at work orders. If at that time we had decided we'd like to switch it to a chain link, it would be done at that time.
Yes.
And we could perhaps use that money for another project.
Correct. So this is to capture the scope and set a budget.
Okay. And why Ocean Shore, you have play structure repair replacement, you have the cost in red. Is this because it's undecided?
It was because we have been meeting with the original, we have been evaluating what to do with the cost with the play structure. So we have been meeting with the Miracle and also another rep who used to work with Miracle but has his own company. So both of the rep come out to the site and evaluated the play structure. We want to see if we can repair the play structure as opposed to replace it.
Oh, I see.
So, this, because there's a lot of information on spreadsheet, I want to making sure I catch that.
Right.
So both came out and look at the features I recommended, they need full replacement. So
is that 14 for replacement then?
Yes, for replacement.
Okay. And I saw that Cabrillo is talking about removing their computer lab.
Yes.
Does that mean we're not going to have a computer lab at Cabrillo?
No, but actually computer labs really are not something that schools at this point require, because if you think about Chromebooks being in the classroom, you want it, and so when we put aside that $12 million, we're really looking at increasing the number of devices and the access to devices, and so Chromebooks, or there will be in some very specific, like maybe at IDL or some places where you might need to have like highly technical, high-powered computers, but for most schools, that happens inside the classroom.
Okay.
And it's space that you can otherwise use for a bigger library or use for a makerspace.
Okay. And then my final question, I think, is what, on your list, what is the difference between off-the-list items versus future phases items?
So,
we had this discussion.
yeah,
so
you are.
Oh, okay.
very astute in picking that
Yeah, it's great. So when we developed, the cost model, when we identified the $200 million, so in the first phase is the future phase is like flexible furniture. Right now, let's say we do 1/3 of school. Then the other 2/3 of the school get flexible furniture would be for the future phases, or the or the outdoor learning environment. Now we do 1/3 of school, 1/3. So the balance of those are for future phases, and the rest is in this whole chunk. But during the master plan, we only have $55 million. So some of the wish list got dropped off the list. So that's
it's kind of meant to indicate a prioritization.
Yeah, a prioritization.
So the off-the-list items were ones that we really wanted on the list, and the future were things that we knew were going to be future.
So if there are
meaning future funding.
Future funding. And actually, off the list is also future funding.
Future
Yes.
funding.
Okay.
So we have changed, revised the name to future bond items.
Okay, that makes
And
more sense.
we also create a separate category just in case there are extra money left. And we could move those like off the list item back to the list.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
So the off the list items are higher priority than the future.
Future,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, off the list is higher than.
Yes.
At this point in time, it's a snapshot. And remember, the master
Right.
plan, we're still at our 50,000 foot and just try to, Cece said, capture the scope, capture the intent. And so the idea is there that we've got a good group of projects to move forward with that describe the needs of the community and of the district to move forward with.
And as this process goes, I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of other work orders, and we'll be talking more about the specifics as they come along, right?
Yeah, so it may be a combination, you're using the terminology of work order, and that may be something that your in-house facilities would use. If it's a large enough project, if you are using CUPCA or any of those type of things, you can go out for quotes and get those. If it's a big enough scope of work, then we need to put together documents, like for example, the gymnasium or the field or something like that. And so we'll design documents that go through the Division of State Architect, and then will be approved and bid in a public, per California Public Contracting Code. And then what'll happen is those whole processes likely are going to come to you to say, now we're going to go out for an RFP, or now we're going to go out for a bid, and then you approve the bid and move forward. So you're actively involved in managing or looking at the expenditures at every single step of the way.
Anybody else have questions, comments?
I just would make a comment is, one of the items that were on the priorities list for all of the school sites was around technology, and so we are taking that $12 million to put aside as our next step will be to explore what our infrastructure is and what we have, and to develop something like a facilities master plan for our infrastructure, our network, our security, and purchasing devices. So if you think about putting that amount of money aside on that end, the challenge becomes how to do all of this work for $43 million. And that was, I actually have to applaud Cece and Kevin around doing that work, because I feel like we really got the things that would matter for students' instruction and student safety. And while $43 million may sound like a lot of money, the amount and the scope of the work that we have planned to do for that is a lot. So thank you very much. And it was looking at innovative solutions like the new Cabrillo gym being a threefer. It gives access to the field, it gives bathrooms to the field, it gives a bigger gym, and it also frees up their current multi-purpose room, giving them another large group. So it was that kind of multi-thinking that I think was so important in that. So, yes.
So how did we come up with 12 million for the technology? I mean,
So for districts, it is a little bit of a guess, and our dream, so if I really got to write my dream, it would hopefully be 10 million, which would free up another bit of million, but it's not knowing what's in there. It's a like amount for a district our size. So it's a big guesstimate. It'd be great if it were less.
Didn't we already do a study on our technology? Maybe a couple years ago, there was a whole committee, and they went school to school, they presented to us.
Yep, and I saw that, and the beautiful thing about technology is that as things change, they become, so it's no longer relevant to our current, but our networks and our wireless, our networks are pretty strong, and we have wireless access points at most of our classrooms, although we're going to really, it's one of those things that the blessing and the curse is things change so quickly and they all cost more money, and but it also is, even from 5 years ago, as we were all buying our first round of Chromebooks, it is absolutely essential. Like, this is the part of, and so as we talk to people about this, they say, you need to really make sure that your community understands how you use technology in your schools, and you need to continue further improving the way that it gets used in schools and providing professional development on that. So But it is, even from 5 years ago, so different than that. So it's a guess, the 12
But
million.
I guess I just want to make sure that I'm clear in my head what the $12 million represents. And that is, it is a complete replacement of the stock of existing sort of usable technology, not necessarily all the infrastructure, but usable technology like Chromebook cards and stuff like that, which would be phased in over time. It's not like spending $12 million in 1 year.
No, it
It's-
absolutely
yeah.
would not, because number one, we don't have that money in this first draw. We'd like to use $4 million of that. And it is, we met with Makiko Sato of ISOM the other day to start to think about it, and she asked us to work on a plan, and she's going to work on how we can fund that, but it actually would be a couple of cycles of Chromebook replenishments.
Yeah, exactly.
And my dream would be 10 years. Makiko doesn't know whether it's 6 to 10 years, depending on when that bond, but it would also be cycles of teacher laptops as well. So it would be devices and network infrastructure and some security and backup things. So we will certainly come to you as that plan, but we're so far behind that because we've been doing this work since October, November, and so that's the next stage. We're actually going to start next week. Any other questions?
Are we finished, or are we just moving on?
No, of
It's an
course.
action
Well,
item.
no, I think that we might want to consider making.
It's an action.
Can we ask questions from the audience?
You actually cannot ask questions of the audience, but if you wanted me to if you want to get me your question, we'll get that question answered. But yeah, it's unfortunately process.
Fill out a yellow card.
Oh, would you like to fill out a speaker's card, Mr. Hinshaw?
That's what I was referring to.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Might not get an answer though.
Oh, yeah, technically we're not allowed to answer.
Ask away, we're not allowed to answer.
We'll look very interested though.
Exactly.
How are you doing on time, Jesse?
Not good.
Hi,
Well,
I'm Horace Hinshaw, and I don't know if you noticed up on our profile up there that Ms. Ocean and I had a meeting. We walked over the courses of the playing fields, which is fantastic, and I applaud the committee for looking at the fields. A couple of things I have regard with the field is that, and I want to address this to the consultants here, if I may, is in your meetings with the community, did the conditions of the IBL and the Cabrero fields come up? Because that's not mentioned in our profile here tonight, but those fields are certainly in dire need of getting fixed, because not only your students during the school have a chance, an opportunity of getting hurt, but a lot of your soccer fields and your softball players can get hurt on those fields too. So I just threw it out to also the board and said, hey, was that thought of to look at anything about fixing those fields in those meetings? The other thing is, what type of timeline are we talking about from here to getting things completed? I'm talking right now more about the playing fields, because those fields are used almost every day, and as Kathy, as you related to earlier, the people use them and they really want them fixed, and these organizations are paying a fee to play on the field, so they deserve them to be complete and in good order. So I guess, what's the timeline for getting things done? So anyway, that's my questions, and thank you very much.
And we will get you answers. I've lost my script.
So, are we on the approval?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we're on the approval of the facilities master's plan. Huh? So do we have a motion to approve the facilities master's plan?
I move.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0.
11C.
Thank you, Kevin and Cece.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, third quarter report on Williams uniform compliance.
Heavy duty.
Do we have a copy of that presentation?
Yes, I
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So this is the quarterly, the third quarter report for the Williams, and I'm happy to report that there were no complaints filed in the third quarter under the instructional materials and textbooks, teacher Mrs. Simonson vacancies, and the condition of our facilities.
Yay! 11D.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Resolution number 2019-04-24-C, board compensation for missed meetings, goal governance. Heather.
Oh, shucks, I don't have my board agenda open, but one of our board members was ill, and so we would like to approve the compensation for her for missing the meeting.
It is recommended that the Pacifica School District Board of Education trustees approve resolution number 2019-04-24C, board compensation for missed meeting. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Second?
A second?
All those in favor?
Four passes, 4-0, thank you.
Jesse, what time do you have to leave?
Soon.
Right now?
Soon.
Okay. So our next, right, yeah, so we do need to talk about the replacement of the trustee, and I think very quickly we could move to the action item of, do we want to run a election, which costs a fair sum of money, or traditionally this district has done an appointment? So could we have a motion to is there any discussion?
Well, I strongly suggest that we go with just an appointment, and if this was, if our dear colleague was leaving towards the beginning of her term, then I might consider an election, but given...
But it's just a year, it's a one-year position.
Yeah, I think that an appointment is in order. That's my thought anyway.
So do we have a motion to make the replacement of Andrea Gould an appointment?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
Okay, so that is the official vote. Just a couple of details that in terms of selecting a trustee, the 60-day timeline puts us at June 19th, and I think that there's interest of doing it before people break up for the summer. So I would recommend that we schedule that for Wednesday, June 19th. And it would involve, I think typically what's happened is an interview, application process, and then an interview by the board, and then there's when that person is selected, then they are immediately conferred as all of the rights, powers, and responsibilities of a board member, because Andrea's resignation starts on the 19th at midnight. If we selected someone on.
And this is all done in a meeting, public.
All very
so
publicly,
everybody can see.
and the decision happens publicly, so, yeah. Wednesday, the 19th?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to...
One more thing that we should probably think about is that Andrea is not typically involved in this process, but we would need 2 members that would work around developing the questions, and if we want to reduce the number of applicants. So we don't necessarily have to identify who those folks are right now, but just recognize that that's one more kind of board responsibility that we need to do. So.
And you had questions when we did that before, with Eric and Elizabeth. and
Yes.
So we have something to go on.
Good. Okay, great.
Board,
Thanks, Jesse.
Jesse's
Have to be
adjourned.
excused, sorry, thank you.
Board bylaws, board policies, and administrative regulations. Goal governance, March 2019 Manual Maintenance 3000 Series, first reading, Josie.
Okay, there was just a few manual maintenance for the 3000 series, mostly due to new laws. So the BPAR 3100 for the budget, there was new law AB 1808, which really, where you, in the LCAP, have to include a section overview for parents and guardians. And then there was also a new law where you can establish contributions for a pension fund. The next one is BPAR 3260 under fees and charges. And that really is the law AB 1974, where you have to, it prohibits any negative action against students or former students for a debt that they owed to the school district. Now, I did receive a comment on this BPAR 3260, and on page 4, number 18, we inadvertently left in the portion that refers to adult education. And so tonight I would recommend that we strike that section before we go on to a second reading, or bring it to the second reading with that paragraph deleted, because we don't have adult education. The next one is BPAR 3515, recovery for property loss or damage. And again, it's a new law which prohibits the collection of debt owed by current or former homeless or foster youth students. Okay, that's it for the 3000 series. I don't know if there's any questions or comments.
I just have a question about the fees and charges. Is that across the board for everything? I'll just give an example. For the library, when there's a library book that's due and the student does not pay the fee and we withhold something.
We cannot withhold something.
Anything.
We cannot hold report cards, we cannot withhold diplomas or anything like that.
They can still go to the celebrations.
Absolutely.
So
one of the things that we want to make sure as this passes the first reading is that we're going to float it by the principals and make sure that we're currently in compliance with that prior to bringing it to second reading.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Are there any other questions or discussions? So moving on to 12B, March 2019, manual maintenance, 4,000, 5,000 series, first reading, Maria.
Okay, I have a number. I'm just going to pick some of the highlights from each of them and then entertain any questions you might have. Beginning with BPAR and AR 4030, which has to do with non-discrimination in employment. The main key points of that one is it's been updated to reflect a new law, SB 1300, as well as new state regulations around the protection of the rights and privacy of all employees, and again, with including the immigration status of any employees or direct employees or employees under contractors. So it extends to contractors as well. Also, it prohibits the district or the employer from any coercion or offer to compensate somebody in exchange for refraining from making disparaging complaints about the district. So that is not allowed. And it also authorizes the district to provide training on bystander intervention. So if anyone is a bystander or an onlooker to a situation of harassment or discrimination, to give skills to those people to be able to know how to advocate and intervene on behalf of that employee, either directly or indirectly. AR, let's see, the next two are connected to each other, so I'll refer to them together. One is AR 4161.1 and /4361.1, personal illness and injury leave. And the next one is AR 4261.1, also personal illness and injury leave. The first one pertains to certificated employees, and we use this is to account for how to handle differential pay in the event that sick leave is exhausted and it rolls over into the 5-month period of before placing an employee who is not able to return on the 39-month list. And that for certificated employees, it reflects that we compensate them minus the cost of a substitute. Except in the event of a paternal or parental leave, in which case we must compensate them at 50%, no less than 50%. And then the partner one has to do with classified employees. In the event of classified employees achieving those same conditions, we must compensate them at no less than 50% of their salary, including if it's a parental leave. Any questions about those so far? Okay, the next one is BP and AR 5117, having to do with inter-district attendance. This is to update both the policy and the regulation having to do with inter-district transfers, basically. It deletes references to the Open Enrollment Act, which was connected to No Child Left Behind, if you remember back in those days. For parents were a choice was triggered if a school was underachieving according to API at a certain level to apply to or to transfer to a school in another district, or a school within a different school within the district, or a school in another district. This deletes all references to that since that law is no longer in effect. It also delineates specific timelines now for us to reply or either grant or deny a request for an inter-district transfer, depending on what time of the year it comes in, whether it's for the current year or for the coming year. Okay. And then I did receive a comment on that. Yes.
My question was around the first page, option 1, talks about the board may enter an agreement with any other school district for a term not to exceed 5 school years. And my question was, what happens if we have someone, say, come in at 2nd grade? Does that mean then they have a possibility of not going through to 8th grade?
I think not, but I'd like to do some more research on that and bring it back at our next meeting. There are some local districts that grandfather in if they're making a decision to not re-enter the agreement. And I think there might be some value to putting that in the policy, but there also might be some value to leaving it open and individually negotiated with each agreement. So what I'd like to do is go and pull the agreements that we have and see how they're written.
Okay.
And see if there's any pattern or anything that might shed more light on whether we want to make it a part of the policy or we just want to leave it open and negotiate it individually.
Okay.
Okay.
And you remember from the demographic study last week is that the number of inter-district transfers that we have is just less.
Right.
And I think that is because fewer school districts are
Holding on to them?
more school districts are holding on to their own students.
Yeah, that just hit me as just a concern of
Yeah.
the what if, we had somebody who went from 2nd grade to, 7th grade and then had to leave for 8th grade, it just seemed really unfair.
Right. The only condition I would think that we may not want to tie ourselves to a single policy, but we can review it, is if there's some catastrophic reason why we have no choice but to terminate the agreement at 5 years, and if we leave the door open for grandfathering, there may be some reason why we may choose not to do that at that time that we can't foresee now. But who knows? I'd like to do a little more research.
Right, I'm just curious why they came up with the 5 years.
And sometimes you say till the end of the grade that is offered at that school. We may want to put a checkpoint at 5th grade and put it just because if somebody transfers in kindergarten, we may not want to offer that whole 8th grade. We may have to put a checkpoint and see where we are enrollment wise.
Right.
I see.
Yeah, there may be some situations under which we're so impacted.
Right.
And that we have a kind of a disproportionate number of transfers, and that, that's hard on the community. If they feel kind of inconvenienced or not served properly as a result.
Right.
So I think it's a good question. It prompted me to think about some of those things, and maybe I think a little more information would be helpful.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to skip over just for a second AR 5125.2 and go down to the parental notifications 5145.6 because it's very brief. There's only two changes that in terms of the annual notifications that I want to call to your attention. One is an annual parental notice requiring about the rights of pregnant and parenting students. We're now required to do that. And then mental health, a notice about mental health services available in the school and in the district and in the community. We're required to do that twice, at least twice. Once at the beginning of the year and once at some other point during the year, which I'm very thrilled about that. So that will be added to our annual notifications. So now I'd like to go back up to the last one, to the 5125.2, and just following on earlier comments about withholding documents. This regulation, I interpret it as the opposite of what, right? Is that correct? Okay. So what this regulation says that we are able to, in the event that there's willful misconduct or damage to property, we are able to charge either monetary or non-monetary compensation to the family or the student, and accept either in compensation for the damages done. And that's the change to that is allowing for non-monetary compensation. So perhaps community service or perhaps some other in-kind item or object or something, whatever is deemed appropriate by the superintendent and the board. So that the excluded population is foster youth and homeless students.
So when it says does not return district property, does that mean books?
Could be.
I would think so.
Or it could be device, or it could be anything that's movable, I suppose. It could be moved off campus.
Very weird.
Well, do we want to talk about that?
And then it says, I just want to point out that the superintendent may withhold grades, diplomas, and/or transcripts.
They may?
Yeah.
But wait a minute, the
I know,
fee
it's
said
in
the
there.
others.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for damage of property. One is
For damage
okay.
or loss,
Right.
non-return.
Right.
But this also would include classroom items like books. Because
Right.
they're district property. And so,
It
we
says-
can withhold if it's a book, but not if it's another kind of fee that we charge.
Right, so if you don't
that
pay
we
for
This
outdoor
is-
ed, I guess,
yeah.
or,
I think this is specifically damage to property.
got it.
Willful damage.
Willfully cuts, defaces, or otherwise injures real or personal property of the district.
Or
Or-
willfully.
Or willfully does not return district property that has been loaned.
And that's a textbook.
Pardon?
That's a textbook, and I don't think we don't send transcripts of kids and don't let them go off to high school because they didn't return a textbook or a library book that they checked out in 4th grade.
That has happened.
Well, but are we saying here that we're giving the superintendent permission to, withhold all of those things for a textbook?
Well,
Transcripts
it
and
does
such?
refer us to Ed Code to talk about what the limits are. So I'm guessing that the Ed Code probably excludes some of the things that you're mentioning. But would you like me to research that and bring it back?
Well, I just wonder if everybody's in agreement that this is what we want for our policy, because it's pretty specific that we can charge somebody for textbooks. I mean, do we want to soften that a little bit, or are we just saying, hey, if those kids don't return those textbooks, let's go bill them all? Hunt them down, no transcripts sent. And
It does sound a little harsh, being that we're K-8. Is there any, room to put in some wording like may, or, that's not so hard?
Yes.
Or there
That's
is...
what you would like? That's actually why we do this, is to have the discussion. So, can we bring this one back for first?
It does say may withhold.
But let's maybe bring this one back for first, and we'll just ask people to read it again and think about it. So what we have to think about is that if we're all not here, and what we believe in as...
Or what about may or may not? Because it kind of leaves the options more open.
And we want consistency to some degree.
Well, the other part that hits me as unusual is the willfully. Because so what does that mean? Willfully does not return district property. How do you willfully or unwillfully not return to me that's very subjective.
Well, it could be. I think it's just a shade short of theft. I think if that's what it seems like. It's just a little bit stopped short of saying it's been taken versus I forgot, oh darn, I forgot again,
I can see that, but I can also see room there for someone to make a call on a student who has been a bother. And for someone to perhaps say, there you are. It's kind of defiance, defiant behavior. You're willfully, instead of saying it's a 12-year-old who...
Oversight or...
I do think that this is something to think about. Because the other side of it is textbooks are expensive.
Oh, they're very expensive.
And let's just say that now it's open season and people are kind of oh, they can't do anything to me anyway. So.
Well, essentially, I think that's the way we've run. We can ask and ask and ask, but we don't withhold grades and transcripts
but it has happened at some of the schools.
Well, should it
right.
happen?
Right.
I think as we come back, I think withholding grades or transcripts that's an extremely punitive piece, and I think that's certainly worthy of more discussion. So I might recommend that we bring this one back. There's opportunity to maybe put a little Pacifica flair on that. And so thinking about, if we're not going to do that, then what would be the ways to apply some pressure or... Okay.
Because I think about our kids that are all under, they're all 14 and under. They're not really doing anything willfully out there. Mostly they're just being stupid when they're just being kids, and not thinking they're gonna. Oh, I'm gonna get that Pacifica School District. I'm not turning in that book from kindergarten. There's nothing rarely, but sometimes there is, I guess, but they're really too
it's
young.
More damage would be willful.
Right.
Yeah, but I can kind of agree, there might be some restorative process we can do with vandalism.
There we go.
Right.
I was going to say it's...
Just stop short of of the withholding piece, just stop there and express that. There can be monetary or non-monetary restoration or compensation, and stop there.
What were you going to say, Rebecca?
Well, I was just thinking, if somebody's doing this, why aren't we trying to get them help in some other way? If they're willfully taking this, that could be a sign that they need help, they want attention.
And I think you're so smart to think about, it could be that thing around, the kid who's been on your last nerve and making sure that we as a district state what we believe and how we can support people.
Yeah.
So.
And that it's not retribution.
Yeah. So let's bring that one back.
Then I will also hold off on AR 35 and BP 3515 because it also addresses
Right.
the same language. So I'll hold this one as well.
Okay.
Future agenda items. So if you look on our magic list over here of upcoming meetings, there are just a couple things that I want to point out. LMEC has asked to have their open house in the morning like they did with their back to school night. They don't get much turnout at the evening one. So I think they would like to do it on 5/9, and I forgot whether that was at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, but
8:30.
8:30, perfect. We've got the board work study on the 8th.
Oh, can I just make a
Sure,
comment? Because I'm
absolutely.
assigned to
Okay.
that. So if it's no longer at 5 o'clock, I can't make it because I'm working.
We'll cover it.
There's also, that is the same date as the Arts Now Pacifica event, so just FYI. Just pointing out the board work studies on the 8th and the 22nd of May, that's in our calendars. And then June 19th for the replacement of the trustee. You can now put that on there. Are there any other topics you would like to discuss this school year as we wind down to 3 more meetings?
I think we're full.
I think we are very full. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, but
Projects, items.
that was a big one today, so thank you very much.
Is this your pen?
It came with it. so
Okay.
they want
All right.
The resolutions. Oh. Meeting adjourned at 9:27.
Need Jesse's signature on the resolution.
Oh, okay, we can wait till next week.
Look at it